I met a GYPSY.
2018 off season going into 2019. I didn't really have any deal. And I was like, man, what do I do? So I actually bought the 450 that I had at Club from Geico. I just bought it from them.
It was just like a practice bike?
Yeah, it was like a practice 450, just the stock form. And then I sent the suspension over to Ziggy to have it revalved on a Supercross. Started riding Supercross, and I obviously Justin Brayton was like my main mentor at the time. And he was like, man, you need to keep trying to race, like keep racing. And he did all of those.
Because you were super fast. You were always really fast.
Yeah, I had a lot of intensity. And sometimes it didn't really relate to too much speed, but I could kind of always be there situationally. And yeah, I had like, I guess if you go all the way back to the beginning of my professional career, I was on MCR.
Yeah.
And I had some ninth place results, but like on a pretty stacked field. And I battled with Hampshire one time really good, which I remember that Toronto. It's crazy the memory we had. Toronto 2017, and I was just battling with Hampshire, and I'm like, this is huge for me right now, massive. And it was for ninth. I think he had like maybe a hurt ankle or something, but I didn't know about that at the time, nor did I care.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like whatever. But and then Geico came to us, or they actually came to the Moto Concepts team, to Mike Genova and Tony Lessie, and said, hey, we're looking for a fill-in rider. We're interested in Cameron. Would there be any way, that we could basically take him? And Mike Genova, he was my agent for that deal. And he said, the only way I'm going to let Cameron go is if you guys give him a fair shot and you give him the rest of Supercross, all of outdoors, and you give him a paid and pay him, and then you give him a full year 2018 full spot on your team. And I had no clue about any of it. Didn't know that they were interested in me, none of it. And because my deal was a Supercross only deal, because the Moto Concepts team only races Supercross.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's cool.
Yeah. And he actually created that 250 program for me because
it was only 450 at the time, right?
Yeah, in 2016. And Michael Lessie was training at Club back in 2016 and was telling his dad, hey, there's this kid here who has nothing. He just got bikes, stock bikes, whatever. But, man, he tries really hard. He's really fast. We should try and help him. And then Tony talked to Genova, and they left their semi at Daytona for the couple days after the pro race, for the amateur race for me. And they got me plastics for my bikes, graphics that were MCR, and new tires. And they had one of their mechanics, Aaron Morozek, work on my bike. So my mom and I drove from South Carolina down to Daytona in my van. And then we were under the semi for the weekend. And Genova actually came to the race because he was still there from the Supercross the night before. And he was like, wow, this amateur racing is like serious. He had never cared to even look at it. And he was like, this stuff is like pretty legit. Like, we want to help you through the end of this year. Like, we want to take you to the amateur races, help you at the amateur races. And so I did a deal with them as an amateur, and I did Freestone, Mammoth, and I had never done Mammoth, Loretta's, and then Monster Cup. And so we had gotten to know each other really well, and then I rode their bikes. Actually, they got me bikes, and so I was on like a really good supported thing for my last into my amateur.
Yeah.
And then at Monster Cup, they offered me a 250 East Coast Supercross deal, and they created a 250 program again for me because Genova and I got to know each other really well. Tony and I got to know, and they were like, man, we want the best for this kid, and we want to give him a shot. So that was my shot. And yeah, 3 races in, like after he put that whole, program together, Kyle Chisholm was the West Coast rider that they had. And yeah, I had raced 3 races for them, I believe. And then Geico came to them and were like, hey, we're interested in another rider. We need Cameron. And yeah, he let me go. At Daytona, actually, he came over to me and was like, hey, I got good news and bad news for you. The bad news is that you're not going to be with us anymore. The good news is that Geico Honda wants you. This is what I've, put together that they would do for you. And I was like, that can't be real, And the way that he did that and yeah, that was what he did for my career is huge. And for him to just want what was best for me was really cool. So to carry that on, I didn't race a whole lot in 2017 because I hurt my shoulder and I didn't really race in the outdoors. 2018, first lap of the first main event in Supercross, I got landed on. No, I was in the turn after like a triple on off into the turn, and a guy went off and clipped it, and he launched into the side of me, and it broke my hand, but not too bad. So I was able to finish that race, and then I raced Tampa, and I believe it was in Georgia. It was in Atlanta, and I had a crash, and it completely broke the rest of that bone. It was a metacarpal in my hand. So that put me out until outdoors, and then I raced outdoors in 2018 and just straight up didn't have the performance to carry on a factory ride. I was like maybe 10th to 12th ish. So yeah, and the Lawrence brothers were coming over, and so they had those guys signed up. They had a full roster, and they had let me know early on, hey, we're not going to have a spot for you. Start looking. And I didn't have results to back up a spot to race, and so I bought the bike from them, my 450, and I kept riding, kept training on Supercross. And then Justin was like, "Man, you should race some of these off. Like if I could, get you some, a connection with Eric Bernard and go race the 250, whatever. Just keep racing, show face." I actually raced straight rhythm for Mathis.
You
on
did.
a 252 stroke.
Yes.
Yep. To start, and then Bradley Taft was the 250 rider for the Australian team.
Yeah.
And I got a call from Justin. Was like, hey, he was in Australia because he was, riding for the team. He was like, hey, would you be interested in coming down and racing the AUS-X Open? I think you should. But he was basically like, you need to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really like,
do
you want to?
I'm asking you, but
yeah,
I'm
telling you. Yeah, because he knew he was pretty much the guy who I looked up to, what he, what his idea of what I should do was. So I was like, yep, let's do it. So I flew to Melbourne, rode the bike for a few days, had the time of my life in Australia, flew over to Sydney, raced the AUS-X Open and won.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like so cool. I hadn't won in so long.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool. Yariv was, if anyone's seen Yariv or knows Yariv, he's
into it.
He's so into it.
Yeah.
He shows his emotion. He loves it, just as we all do. And so I won that. That was super cool. Such a fun week. And then I got back, and then Justin was like, hey, I talked to Eric Bernard, and they'll give you, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but basically paid for my travel and a couple extra bucks to go race in Geneva.
Yeah.
No, the first one would have been BYPSY. Yeah, the first one was BYPSY, which it wasn't still BYPSY, but like that Paris Supercross.
Paris Supercross.
And so I went there and raced on I forget what the team was called. It was a Honda team. I wore Kenny gear. Went and raced that, and I got second there. And then got to know Eric there.
He's such a good dude.
Yeah, so cool. So cool. And traveled with Brayton and his family over there and back, and got to go to Paris. And I was like, man, that was cool. And then they invited me to come to Geneva. And they had a guy from Switzerland that had a stock Yamaha bike that he was just like, yeah, I would love to have Cameron Mackey race it. And I was riding a Yamaha at the time because I was riding a Club MX bike.
Yeah.
And I was potentially going to ride on that team. So I shipped my suspension with me and went over there and raced Geneva and won Geneva. And then came back, and then I got a call in December, right around Christmas time, from my shack. and was like, hey, Sexton broke his collarbone on a mountain bike today. Would you be interested in West Coast Supercross? And I was like, sign me up. I'm on my way. So that was where my Geico 2019 deal came in, and I did the whole Supercross. And that was like kind of my I think I got fifth in points, which was like so much better than anything I'd ever done. And I podiumed in Vegas. And then after the third round of outdoors, I got a fill-in ride with TLD, and then did that summer. And then, so that goes into me starting to work with Mitch. Yeah. That was at the end of the summer when I got hired in 2020 for Pro Circuit, and been here since.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.